There is something genuinely unusual about Meghan Markle's position in the public conversation right now, something that is worth naming clearly before trying to understand the new chapter she is attempting to build. She is, simultaneously, one of the most talked about women in the world and one of the most consistently misread. The volume of coverage generated around her name on any given week is extraordinary by any measure, and yet a significant portion of that coverage is doing something other than straightforwardly reporting on what is actually happening in her life and her career. It is doing something more complicated, more emotionally loaded, more connected to the long-running debate about who she is and what she represents, than to the specific, concrete, documented facts of what she is actually doing and what has actually been happening to her professionally in the last year or two. The new chapter that Meghan Markle is now navigating is a real story with real developments and real challenges and real questions about where things go from here, and it deserves to be told clearly, grounded in what is actually known rather than in the swirl of speculation and hostile commentary and defensive counter-commentary that has made it so difficult for most people to see the actual situation with any clarity. So, what is the actual situation? In the period running from roughly the middle of 2024 through to early 2026, Meghan launched a lifestyle brand, built a Netflix television series around that brand, watched the Netflix relationship evolve and then significantly contract, and is now in the position of running her brand independently after Netflix withdrew as an equity investor in March 2026. Those are the basic reported facts, and they are considerably more interesting and considerably more instructive about where things actually stand than the polarized framing that dominates most coverage of her story would suggest. The lifestyle brand began its public life under the name American Riviera Orchard, a name that reflected the Montecito, California setting that has defined the Sussexes' post-royal life, and that carried with it a clear aesthetic intention. Something warm and coastal and curated, something that communicated a particular sensibility about food and home and the art of everyday living. The brand was announced with considerable social media fanfare in early 2024, with a limited release of homemade jam sent to a selection of celebrity friends, a strategy that was simultaneously a soft launch, a piece of aspirational marketing, and an immediate lightning rod for exactly the kind of intense public reaction that anything Meghan does tends to generate. The jam was praised by the people who received it, mocked by the people who wanted to mock it, and discussed by virtually everyone in the media ecosystem that covers her, with a level of attention that was wildly disproportionate to the commercial significance of a small batch of jam, but entirely consistent with the consistent truth of the Sussex story, which is that anything they do generates coverage at a scale that few other individuals on Earth can match. In February 2025, the brand was relaunched under a new name as ever, a name that carries its own deliberate significance, suggesting continuity, consistency, a sense of this is who I have always been, rather than this is a new persona I am adopting for commercial purposes. The relaunch coincided with the debut of her Netflix series, With Love, Meghan, a lifestyle show in which she invited friends and collaborators to her California home to cook, garden, entertain, and generally embody the aesthetic and the values that the brand was built around. And in an announcement that Meghan described as significant on her Instagram, Netflix confirmed that it was coming on board not just as the streamer of the show, but as an equity partner in the As Ever brand itself, a move that represented, at that moment, a meaningful vote of commercial confidence in the brand's potential from a company that was in a position to know quite a lot about what generated genuine consumer interest versus what generated media noise that did not translate into actual commercial behavior. Netflix's co-chief executive Ted Sarandos had, in a widely reported comment, made the case for Meghan's commercial potential in terms that were both flattering and analytically interesting. When the trailer for the Harry and Meghan documentary dropped in 2022, he noted, "Everything on screen was dissected by the press for days, with the shoes she was wearing selling out across the world and a piece of furniture visible in the background generating its own wave of consumer interest." His point was a genuine one about the particular quality of public fascination that Meghan generates, a quality that, whatever you think about her or about the Sussexes more broadly, is real and is commercially meaningful when it can be channeled in the right direction. The question that the subsequent year and a half would test was whether that quality of fascination, that particular and unusual capacity to generate attention and aspiration simultaneously, was translatable into the kind of sustained consumer behavior that a lifestyle brand actually needs to build genuine commercial success. The results of that test have been mixed in ways that are instructive without being catastrophic for the brand's future. With Love, Meghan, the Netflix series, completed 2 seasons of 8 episodes each in 2025, along with a holiday special in December, and the viewership numbers that emerged from Netflix's own engagement reports placed it at number 389 on the platform's most watched series list, reaching around 5.3 million viewers over the course of the year. Those numbers are not what the original ambitions for the show appeared to be, and the absence of a confirmed 3rd season, combined with the lack of any formal cancellation announcement, place the show in the kind of limbo that streaming platforms sometimes use when they are navigating the transition away from a content relationship without the cost and the optics of an explicit cancellation. Critics were mixed to negative on the show's content, with frequent commentary about the aspirational lifestyle format feeling somewhat disconnected from the lives of most viewers, and audience reaction was similarly divided, positive among Meghan's existing fans and considerably less generous among viewers who were encountering her in this specific format for the first time. The As Ever brand itself told a somewhat different story from the show's viewership numbers. In the months following the relaunch, several products sold out rapidly, including honey that Meghan described in an Instagram video as having been oversold despite significant efforts to build inventory in advance. The initial consumer response to the brand suggested that the ability to convert public fascination into actual purchasing behavior was real, even if the sustained commercial momentum needed for a long-term lifestyle brand success was still being established. Products including jams, teas, shortbread cookies, flour sprinkles, and rosé wine found audiences willing to buy them, willing to engage with the brand in the transactional way that matters for genuine commercial viability, as opposed to the social media engagement that sometimes inflates the perception of interest without actually converting to revenue. The development that marks the clearest beginning of Meghan's genuinely new chapter is the March 2026 announcement that Netflix was withdrawing as an equity investor in As Ever. Netflix's statement framed the withdrawal as having always been the intended outcome of a launch partnership rather than a long-term structural commitment, and the statement noted that Meghan would continue growing the brand independently going forward. The spokesperson for the Sussexes framed the separation as a reflection of the brand's readiness to stand on its own after a successful first year. The public commentary around the announcement, predictably, ranged across the full spectrum from those who interpreted it as evidence of commercial failure to those who took the independence framing at face value and saw it as a genuine next step in the brand's development. The honest assessment sits somewhere in between, and it requires holding several things simultaneously that the polarized coverage of the Meghan story rarely allows for. The Netflix relationship did not produce the full scope of what it appeared to promise when it was announced, whether measured by viewership numbers for the show, or by the breadth of the commercial ambitions that the equity partnership seemed to represent. At the same time, the brand has demonstrated genuine consumer interest, genuine sellout moments, and a genuine customer base that chose to spend actual money on as-ever products because they wanted them, not because of media fascination or celebrity curiosity. These two things can both be true, and the honest story of the new chapter requires acknowledging both. What the independence from Netflix actually changes, in practical terms, is significant. The streaming giant's partnership had provided both financial backing and, perhaps more importantly, a distribution and marketing infrastructure that amplified the brand's reach in ways that an independent operation would have to replicate through other means. Going it alone means rebuilding or replacing those amplifying mechanisms, means taking on more of the commercial risk directly, and means demonstrating that the consumer interest the brand has generated can be sustained and grown without the built-in promotional platform that a Netflix series provided. These are genuine challenges, and the reporting from those connected to the brand acknowledges this openly, with an insider quoted as saying that Meghan understands it is an uphill climb and that she is not in denial about the commercial realities she is facing. The direction in which the brand appears to be moving as of early 2026 includes reported planning for a UK launch of a limited collection, with sources suggesting interest in an edited, curated product range tied to the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. This is a genuinely interesting strategic direction if the reporting reflects real planning, because it would represent a significant shift in the geographical focus of the brand and a meaningful reconnection with the United Kingdom in a context that is both commercially and personally significant. The Invictus Games, which Harry founded and which remain a genuine passion project and a genuine source of positive public recognition for him, provide a built-in moment of UK presence and built-in positive associations that a standalone commercial launch could not manufacture. A brand launch tied to Invictus 2027 would be an attempt to reintroduce as ever to a British market through a frame that carries genuine warmth and genuine public goodwill, a smart strategic approach if the execution can match the concept. The broader question of where the Sussex media and commercial strategy goes from here is one that remains genuinely open, and the reported shift of the Netflix production deal to a first-look arrangement, which gives Netflix first refusal on new projects, but allows the Sussexes to take work elsewhere if Netflix passes, actually provides more flexibility than the original exclusive relationship did, whatever the reduction in financial terms might represent. The Sussexes are reported to be working on a film adaptation of the novel Meet Me at the Lake for Netflix, which would represent a different kind of content from the documentary and lifestyle formats they have previously focused on, potentially reaching different audiences and demonstrating range that the current body of Netflix work has not fully established. What is really being tested in this new chapter is something that the noise around Meghan's story consistently obscures, but that is the genuinely interesting commercial and personal question at the heart of everything she is attempting. It is whether the particular kind of attention she generates, an attention that is real and that is unlike almost anything else in contemporary public life, in its scale and its intensity, and its remarkable capacity to survive and even intensify through controversy, can be converted into something sustainable and genuinely valuable on its own terms, independent of the royal connection that first created it, and independent of the specific media partnerships that have shaped how it has been channeled up to this point. Martha Stewart built one of the most significant lifestyle brands in American commercial history and survived a legal crisis that would have ended most people's public careers, rebuilding on the other side of that crisis into something that has outlasted almost every prediction made about her at her lowest point. Gwyneth Paltrow built a lifestyle brand that was mocked relentlessly by significant portions of the media and culture, treated as a punchline for years, and turned that attention, even the hostile attention, into genuine commercial momentum that made Goop a real and lasting business. These comparisons are not perfect because Meghan's situation has its own specific character, its own specific history, and its own specific combination of strengths and challenges that do not map exactly onto any previous template. But what they suggest is that the relationship between public attention, commercial ambition, and lifestyle brand success is not as simple as the critics of Meghan's brand building would have it, where mockery equals failure and critical media coverage equals commercial doom. Some of the most durable lifestyle brands in the world were built through exactly the kind of intense and divided public reaction that Meghan generates consistently. And the question of whether she can find the right product, the right format, the right channel, and the right combination of authenticity and aspiration to convert that reaction into genuine commercial durability is a question that the current moment, with its independence from Netflix and its plans for expansion, is actually better positioned to begin answering than any previous moment in the As Ever story. The personal dimension of this new chapter matters too, and it is not entirely separable from the commercial one, because the lifestyle brand that Meghan is building is explicitly and deliberately connected to the life she actually lives and the values she actually holds, in a way that makes the personal and the professional more intertwined than they would be for most commercial ventures. The Montecito life, the cooking and the gardening and the hosting and the intentional approach to everyday moments that, with love, Meghan attempted to share with viewers is genuinely the life she appears to be living, not a constructed persona adopted for commercial purposes, but a reflection of real choices about how to live that she has made consistently since stepping back from royal life. Whether that life, communicated through whatever channels and in whatever formats come next, can build a brand audience that is large and loyal enough to sustain genuine commercial success, independent of the partnership structures that have supported it so far, is the test that the new chapter is now running. Meghan Markle's new chapter is not the triumphant reinvention that her most enthusiastic supporters might describe, and it is not the commercial catastrophe that her harshest critics are eager to declare. It is something more interesting and more uncertain than either of those narratives allows for. It is a genuine attempt by a genuinely unusual person, with a genuinely unusual public profile and genuinely unusual commercial challenges, to build something lasting out of materials that do not come with a guarantee, and through methods that are still being refined and tested and adapted to what the market and the audience are actually responding to. The outcome of that attempt is not yet written, and the honest and interesting story of where Meghan Markle goes from here is not one that can be told yet in terms of success or failure, but only in terms of the specific, documented, real choices being made right now about what comes next.